sets off red flags?
The whole funding pattern and the behavior of how tax deductible money ends up in political action, which is not supposed to be. Okay. And the coordination is something that the IRS will pay attention to. But I would argue that it is illegal because they're not following the spirit of the law, and the IRS has something known, like I discussed with you earlier in forensic accounting, substance over legal form.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine, where life, culture, community, and faith meet truth, power, and purpose.
Because you're finding some things that I thought was very interesting in how money, and as I told people watching the show, how money works in politics.
You have to work backwards. You know, most people see the endorsement, you know, this organization backs this organization backs this organization, but most people don't see the money flows before the endorsements or before the support or before they put boots on the ground. So when I started looking at both Letitia James and Zohra Mamdani, I said, these people, they're the product of a bigger machine. They're manufactured people. You ever wonder why people out of nowhere come and enter into politics? No record, no voting record, no this, no that. Well, they're the product of a machine. It's kind of like they're the final end of the manufacturing process. In the case of Zohra Mamdani, you know, he's running for mayor of New York. I live in New York. I am a forensic accountant, and you know, I'm going to do what forensic accountants do. I'm going to follow the money that goes to him. And what I've found is very, very interesting. First of all, if you donate money to a charity, that is tax deductible. Fine.
Right.
If you donate money to a political action organization, a 501c4, that is not tax deductible. If you donate money to a 501c3, who in turn donates money to a 501c4, and in turn uses money to go to support Mamdani, oppose his who he's running against, okay? That is tax deductible for the donor, but it's fishy and it smells like hell because.
Okay.
Yes, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Sam.
So that's what I found. And it's not just a one-off here and there. I found a whole network, a syndicate of nonprofits or tax-exempt entities that funnel money to support Mamdani. So far, I've documented 6 channels, one channel being part A and B, so it's almost 7 channels of money flowing to Mamdani. And I show the money trails. And the other interesting part is some of these entities send money back to each other. It's kind of like, oh, can you lend me money today? I'll pay you back tomorrow, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It shows that this is really a syndicate. This is not separate actors acting by themselves. This is a coordinated network between entities like the open society entities, between entities like Tides and their related entities, between other entities. What they're basically doing is each transaction by itself seems to be legitimate. But being the criminal that I was, I know you have to look at behavior, not the legal form. You have to look at the substance behind the transaction over the form. And when you look at the substance and you see the behavior from the beginning to the end, it shows very likely illegality and maybe tax fraud.
Wow. All right, man. You sent a lot of slides, and I put them and I put all the slides up. So walk us through the 13 million. Now, where does it start and how does it move and where does it end up?
The slides on the screen?
Yeah. Which one you want me to start off first?
You start up whatever you want. Doesn't matter.
All right. I'm going to start. This is the bend the arc. This is the bend the arc slide. where you talk about the circle of funding discovery, receivables.
And I can cover another slide based on this slide, which was the slide before. But so don't worry.
Which one is that? Which one is that? And I'll bring it up.
The Open Society money going to bend the arc. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it.
Okay.
All right. You have George Soros's Open Society Foundation.
Is that it?
Right. He gives money. Okay. He gives money to his. No, that's not the right one. No, that's not the right one. Let me put back the old. This no. It's actually Channel 6.
Channel 6?
Yeah.
All right.
Can you find it? Oh, no.
Yep. Is that Channel 6? That's
There
Channel 6.
There it is. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. George Soros gives money over the years to his charity called the Foundations to Promote Open Society. Right? It's a 501c3. Okay. And about $1.5 million of that money that came from the charity, right, goes to a related entity that was founded by his son, Alex Soros, known as Bend the Arc, et cetera, which is a charity, which is a 501c4. Okay. Okay. That I'm sorry. No. I got to start all over again.
Okay.
It's a complicated subject, and anyway, Soros gives $1.5 million. I'm sorry, Soros gives billions of dollars to his charity, his foundation, and he gets a tax deduction for it, or he's received tax deductions for it. Then he funnels the money to a related organization, which is another charity founded by his son, Alex Soros. That charity is known as a 501c3 also. It's known as Bend the Arc, etc. It's a long name after Bend the Arc for Jewish something or another, and it's a 501c3 entity. His charity has funneled $1.5 million to his 501c3 entity. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The 501c3 entity gives money to a 501c4 entity. Soros, 501c3 charity, 501c3 charity, 501c4 political entity. Had he given it to the political entity directly, he'd receive no tax deduction. But what makes this situation even more concerning is that the money that the 501c3 Bend the Arc gave to the political action organization is also a Bend the Arc entity known as a 501c4. They're sister entities, one for charity, one for political action.
Right.
So you can see that it's kind of like an incestuous relationship,
right?
Not just with money, but with blood. Right. So that organization then goes ahead, right, with the money that they received. We'll call it Bend the Arc Action, with the money they receive from their sister entity, and endorses Zohran Mamdani. They also help put boots on the ground for Zohran Mamdani, canvassers, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when that 501c4 uses their resources to assist and support Zohran Mamdani, it doesn't show up on the New York campaign expense reports. Why? Because the New York City campaign expense reports only tracks money spent by the campaigns directly and political action committees opposing their opponents or supporting the candidate. This is not a political action committee. This is a 501c4 organization, which is allowed to do a lot of targeted advocacy. So this money is invisible money. You want to call it dark money, black money, I don't know what you want to call it. Shadow money. This money is invisible money. The other problem that you have, and going back to the slide that you had before, the one with the arrows and bolts, whatever.
Which number was that? Number one, channel one?
The slide before channel one. Go back.
That one.
Okay, here. Okay.
Mm.
The problem is Bend the Arc 501c3 charity gives grants to Bend the Arc 501c4 political action, right? Okay. Charitable dollars converted to political activism. And again,
Right.
if Soros had given money to the 501c4 directly, he'd get no tax deduction. Now, over the years, yeah, tax deductions are only for tax deductions are allowed as long as you're a progressive.
Right.
In any case, over the years, Bend the Arc has sent millions of dollars to its sister 501c4 entity. It's also loaned money to its 501c4 entities. And how does those loans get paid back? Bend the Arc 501c3 grants money to Bend the Arc 501c4 so the 501c4 can pay back the 501c3. That's kind of like, to me, it's commingling of funds. To me, it proves that the 501c3 and 4 are really the same entity in substance. Maybe in legal form, they're different. They have different EIN numbers, employee identification numbers, whatever, but they're really a single entity. And you can see these back and forths. I think I documented about $11 million of monies flowing back and forths between these entities.
Right.
Now, this is special because Soros is the beginning of the money when he gives the money to his foundation. His son I think is also on the board of the foundation, and he's also the founding chairman of Bend the Arc 501c3 and Bend the Arc 501c4. That's why I call it an incestuous relationship, not just with the money trails, but with the blood too.
Wait a minute. He's the chairman of both?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes, he's the founding chairman of both.
Wow. So he's just giving
they both
himself.
share the same address, etc.
But so they have the same address. Everything's the same. It's just.
So what happens is when Alex Soros is sitting in one chair as the 501c3 person, he moves to the next chair on the table as the 501c4 person. And he's moves.
Wow. So the money that moves back and forth, right? So you have the loan, and then you have grants. Now,
a mixture of loans and grants going from the 501c3 to the 501c4.
Now, how does that benefit them just throwing money back and forth between the companies?
How's that benefit? Because it shows it shows that these are not really two separate entities, but they're one.
Right. But on paper,
I have to correct the mistake that I made prior. Okay. I think Alex Soros is the founding chairman of the 501c4 entity, not the 501c3 entity. Okay. But they both have common executives, employees between the two.
Now, is there any tax breaks with the grants and loans that go back and forth?
No. The tax break comes when I or you give money to a charity.
Right.
Okay. But the charity can do then is give the money to a 501c4 in this situation or other situations.
Okay. And then they funnel it over to the 501c4 and use it for political whatever.
For activism, political purposes like endorsing candidates, providing boots on the ground. And this 501c4 money is invisible. It's not a political action committee where New York State requires them to register and to provide campaign expense reports.
So almost like I'm supporting a candidate indirectly and I'm getting my money back.
Yeah, it's tax arbitrage. I think I even have a slide on it. It's basically for every dollar I donate to my charity that goes to support a candidate, I'm getting back from a high income individual, which I believe Soros is. Okay, I'm getting back 40 cents on the dollar. And I'm also taking that money because I'm putting it in a foundation, right? I'm taking that money out of my taxable estate when I go to heaven or hell, and and it's out of the reach of the Internal Revenue Service.
All right. Did you have the charitable to political? You have that one.
Yeah, direct path. Yeah, that's the slide. Tax arbitrage. Donor pays $1 million, let's say, right? Okay, the actual cost is $1 million. Okay, if he donates money to a political organization, like we said,
right?
Donor 501c4 million is $1 million, but donor to 501c3, which then goes to 501c4s, it's a different number. The donor pays $1 million, gets $370,000 in approximate income tax savings. Right? So it's only costing the donor $630,000 for the $1 million that is going to politics, which ultimately ends up in politics. But the other thing is, back in the day, this is about 8-9 years ago, Soros transferred a substantial part of his fortune, right, to these charities to help them save money. Okay, now these charities, right, are earning income tax-free on our dime, right? Now, and they're donating money to 501c4s. When he donated the money to these charities, if you want to call them that, okay, that money was taken out of his future estate, okay, and out of the reach of the IRS for estate taxes. So it basically creates generational influence.
Generational influence.
In other words, he still he or his family will still have control of the money, right?
Right.
Even though it's so-called in a charity.
Right. Wow. See, the rich, man, that's how they stay rich.
Now, here's the issue. Now, there are things I agree with progressives on and things I disagree with them on. Things I agree with Trump on and things I disagree with Trump on. But here's an issue where it's total hypocrisy. The progressives like Mamdani, they say they don't want billionaires. The progressives like Mamdani want to tax the rich more. The progressives like Mamdani will over all of these so-called tax loopholes. But for some reason, this is not allowed to be discussed.
Right. But I really don't think, Sam, I really don't think people know how they do money like this.
No, people don't know. People think they're giving money to a charity, their church. They take a tax deduction. Their church feeds the poor, does all kinds of things. But if you notice the funding arc of these 501c3s, even when it's going to another charity, another 501c3, the ulterior motive is political action, because a lot of it ends up in 501c4s, or a lot of it ends up in 501c3s that end up voter registration. Well, who are they trying to get to vote? They're trying to get to vote people to support their candidates, not people that will support other people's candidates. Like Zohar Mamdani had this thing. We're going to help register you to vote, and we're going to give you a Zohar Mamdani sticker if we help register you to vote. Now, that sort of thing to entice people.
Right. Now you have the Make the Road circuit.
That's something a long work in process. It's still working on this one, but here.
You want me to take this one down, or you still want
to? Keep it up because this is important. All right. Make the Road New York is a 501c3. It's a charity. Make the Road Action is a 501c4. It's political action. So what you have here is Make the Road gets a substantial amount of money, $16 million from the United States government. I think there's about $7 or $8 million from state governments. But whatever the number is, it doesn't matter for purposes of our illustration. So you're getting government money, and then you're transferring it to Make the Road Action, which is a 501c4. And you can say, well, listen, here's the problem. Cash is fungible. Even if the government money was put in a separate bank account and expensed separately, right? It frees up money that they would have for other that they would need to support political activities. So, in other
Right.
words, it doesn't really matter how you label the funds. Cash is
Right.
cash, and cash is fungible. So the money goes to its Make the Road Action, which is a 501c4, and Make the Road Action endorses candidates like Bendy Arc 501c4 does, right?
Right.
And and not only that, but it has Make the Road Action has an incestuous relationship with the Working Families Party PAC. Remember the PACs? That PAC has to disclose the expenditures it's making on behalf of candidates, and that's how I took the transaction. It had a transaction where it donated $45,697 in a single day to Working Families Party National PAC, and Working Families Party National PAC gave it back the same day in the form of, in other words, I'm donating money to you, and you're giving me back the money because I'm paying you to do something for me. It's called an in-kind transaction.
Now, someone asked a question: would Turning Point USA fall into this type of with Charlie Kirk and the organization Turning Point? Would you know if they would fall in this type of money movement?
It's possible. I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I'm one person. I don't
Right.
have
No. I'm just, people ask, right? Because there was a lot of reports, before Charlie Kirk passed, his views on the Gaza thing and how a lot of people were pulling money out. That was just, pro-Zionist.
Listen,
and
he
was heavily funded.
I encourage everybody, regardless of political persuasion, to examine what we are discussing today as it relates to other entities.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if I'm left or I'm right. There is the law. There are rules that have to be obeyed for a civil society.
Right. But now what you're seeing here, is that a loophole in the law, or how does that work with the IRS? When the IRS sees things like this, what sets off red flags?
The whole funding pattern and the behavior of how tax deductible money ends up in political action, which is not supposed to be. Okay. And the coordination is something that the IRS will pay attention to. Now, is it a loophole or is it illegal? Their lawyers are going to say that it's a loophole. They're going to lawyers say we're doing perfectly legal. Well, yeah, I get it. Listen, I was on the other side of the law. I would argue the same thing, whatever.
Right.
But I would argue that it is illegal because they're not following the spirit of the law, and the IRS has something known, like I discussed with you earlier in forensic accounting, substance over legal form. You got to look at the substance of the transactions, not the legal form that is meant to disguise the true nature of the transactions.
Right.
So my opinion is that they violated the IRS code. Their lawyer's opinion is that they are taking advantage of loopholes. Who determines that? The Internal Revenue Service or the courts.
Right.
But that's what's great about America. That's why we have debates. That's why we have free speech.
Right. Now, I mean, but you got to have prosecutors that are willing, to properly investigate and properly look into, these type of tracks. I mean,
that is correct. Well, here's the problem with something like this. Okay, something like this, and there's far to your audience. There's far more stuff that I've documented, and it's very, very technical, and it's very, very it's a lot of tedious work, and you are only seeing what I can explain to you as best I can, considering the information. Sometimes I even have to correct myself mid-interview because sometimes I even get confused. Whatever.
Right.
The thing is that people need to understand is that the government is manned by people.
Right.
People who like Trump, people who dislike Trump, people that are biased towards Democrats, people that are biased towards Republicans. That is
Right.
human nature. You also have a problem is that this is kind of an investigation doesn't end doesn't begin to end in a 2-hour movie. This is an
Right.
investigation, a white collar investigation that would take years. And
Really.
some of these people that are in positions of power or in positions of managerial authority or in positions of making this, making decisions, they're not going to be here in 2 years or 3 years or 4 years.
Right.
They might be working for a law firm. They want that easy win against some
Exactly.
poor bodega owner in the Bronx that didn't pay his sales taxes. That's what they want. They don't want this stuff because it's too complicated. It requires work. So what I'm trying to do is make it as easy as possible for them to understand a very, very complicated situation involving 20 different entities over a period of years. And believe me, it's easier to find the information than it is to write it down and explain it.
Right. But you have to know where to look.
You have to know where to look. My background, I'm a former CPA. I committed one of the largest security frauds in New York in the country back in the 1980s. Right.
Exactly.
Unlike you, where your mommy taught you how to clean your clothes, I was taught how to launder money, how to clean money. Okay, so this is something that that's wired into what I do, and I do it. Can I examine this one or that one or this one or that one? Well, give me a staff of 100 people and give me a $10 million grant, and I'll do it. But nobody's paying me. I'm doing the best I can with what I have in the situations that interest me. That doesn't mean that people say, "Why did you write about this?" You're like, what am I going to do? I have to have a life. I still have to sleep 8 hours a day. I still have to shave. People don't understand. It's not something that you do. Oh, I look it up, boom, 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 and it's out in the blog. It doesn't work that way. That chart over there is the result of a lot of hours of blood, sweat, and tears. And your colleague, which was the one that used to be a detective, the lawyer.
Oh, you're talking about John.
In any investigation, you sometimes you run into dead ends, and sometimes you run into the right track. And sometimes, even though you're on the right track, you have to modify things a little bit because you gain an understanding as an investigation progresses.
Right. It seems like, Sam, it just never ends. It never ends with these politicians.
Well, here's the problem that you have, okay? The United States government, from when I was a criminal crazy Eddie back in 1986, right, brought more white-collar prosecutions than they are today, which is 29 years later, where the economy is maybe 5 to 10 times the size. That is the fact. Now, you want to blame the Democrats? Yeah, I'll blame the Democrats. You want to blame the Republicans? I'll blame them both because the arc has gone down, or the chart has gone down over all of these years. The United States government has basically abdicated the war on white-collar crime. They've relegated, if you feel you're the fraud, go to the civil courts and sue. Yes, sometimes they bring a white-collar case and all that, but overall, white-collar crime is being less prosecuted today than it was 29 years ago when I was a criminal. Do you believe that people become more honest? Do you believe that there's less fraud? There's no real way to, it's not like violent crime where you find the dead bodies and you can count murders.
Right.
But as don't forget it, during this time, the economy grew also. So it's a lower number of cases on an economy that's 2, 3, 4 times the size as it was then. Then you look at IRS Criminal Investigative Division. Again, they had more Criminal Investigative Division when I was laundering money back in 1986 than they have today. And again, it's not just one president; it's all of them. All of them from who's president in '86? That was Reagan. All of them from Reagan to Trump right now.
Wow. Well, that's something for the people to think about. And I said, we need to, when politicians run, we need to go and see who's actually giving them money,
Right.
because that's the people that they work for.
Well, Mamdani now has gone from billionaires. Now he says right-wing billionaires because it's already been brought out that he's got plenty of billionaires on the left supporting him. So, here's the thing that people need to understand, okay? There's no difference between white-collar crime and politics. They're both one and the same, okay? White-collar crime, you defraud people. In politics, you defraud people to vote for you, okay? It's all about gaining money or gaining influence or gaining power under false pretenses. And I'm sorry to say that this is not a situation that's confined to one party or to one ideology. We are all human. We are all God's children, and we are all vulnerable to the same things.
Right. Hold on 1 second. Check the link I sent last time.
Take your time.
Yeah. I'm just my next guest. My next guest is trying to get in, but I'm gonna send him another link just in case. But yeah, man, like
I don't charge overtime if you need me for extra time.
I
don't charge you.
But yeah, so we have to like. It's good that we're talking about this because a lot of people, they don't know the backstage politics, right? I call this backstage politics, right?
It's intimidating. Right. It's intimidating to talk about. It's not sexy stuff. It's not whatever. There's a chart there. I gave you a spaghetti chart with all the lines and extra. Can you put it up? That one. Okay. This is what I've had to deal with. Okay. Yellow lines, orange lines, black lines, whatever lines. Okay. And this is purposely made complicated to prevent people from looking into it or to discourage people from looking into it. You have to have a certain mind to look into it. I was at a party the other day, not a party, a gathering for a Republican candidate. I'm a Democrat, but sometimes I go to everybody, Republicans, Democrats, whatever.
Right.
And people say, "Oh, Antar, you're doing a great job. You're really serving the public. Why are you doing this?" And I say to them simply, I'm not doing this I'm doing this simply because I can. This is my lifestyle. This is the way I was brought up on the other side of the law. I'm still leading a life of crime, but I'm not doing the crime. I'm explaining the crime, so to speak.
Right.
And this is this kind of stuff that we have to deal with, the complexities, and it's not easy charting all of those complexities.
Right.
I can tell you, I guarantee. Since then, I found a few more arrows and a few more boxes.
Wow. Is this like when you see political action committees or 501c4s, right? Is this the modus operandi? This is how they get their money? Because I always wondered, how do these on that type of level? Because now you mentioned the Working Families Party, so that's big money because they're a party in the whole state.
Well, you look at that spaghetti chart, that dead center in the middle.
Right. So money flows in and out all the time. It's just very interesting how this works, because the average voter, like the guy just said, he said, the difference is that we don't play in those spaces.
That's true. But here's another thing that people don't realize, okay? You have billionaire progressives and you have billionaire conservatives, okay?
Right.
And of course, there's billionaire moderates, but I want to use progressive versus conservative for a more stark comparison, okay?
Right.
what is really going on here? Why would billionaires, any billionaire, want to fund the party that's calling for socialism, dismantling capitalism, or a lot of them are calling for dismantling capitalism? Why are they doing this? Okay. It seems to run contra to their interests.
Right.
Now, there's money and then there's power and influence and resources. Okay.
Right. Mm-hmm.
How much money can you spend if you're a billionaire on cars and other luxury items? All right.
Right.
If you put the money into a charity, right? Okay. That becomes generational influence, although you don't have direct access to the money. You can still put your friends and your cronies and your relatives on payroll, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, like, for instance, when Biden wanted to decrease the threshold for taxing estates, I think it was at 10 or extra 15 million, whatever the number was, down to 3 or 4 million. People saying, he's taxing the billionaires. No, he's not, because the billionaire can afford to pay taxes on that extra layer of $10 million in the state that now becomes includable. It's the working guy like you and I, okay, we're not that rich, that makes money, accumulates money, and they're the ones that face the real burden of lowering the estate tax threshold. So in effect, what it does is it makes these mega billionaires, okay, more secure because they don't have anybody coming up through the channel, so to speak, the wealth channel, to eventually challenge their power. So my belief is they don't really believe in socialism so much. They believe in socialism as a tool to maintain their power, resources, and wealth. That's what the underlying thing is that people don't get that kind of an explanation. Now, you can disagree with me on a couple of things here and there, and you can probably add more to support my argument. But that's what's really going on here.
No, I absolutely agree, and that's what I've been telling people. Like, it's really not our fight, right? It's a fight with the most powerful on the left, and the fight with the most powerful on the right.
These things, everything that's going on, as I said to you earlier, I wanted to see who manufactures these candidates. Okay, these things is really what's not talked about. Is the struggle amongst the elites, the wealthy elites in this world, and using these organizations as a means to their ends. It's not really, in my opinion, it's not really to them a question of socialism as they believe Marxism or whatever. They believe if socialism helps benefit me by consolidating my power and giving me generational influence, not just generational wealth, I'm for it because I got my money already. You know, George Soros in 2018, and I might be a little bit vague on the details, okay? Because it's just so much, to do. He donated a large sum of his money to his charities to avoid some kind of a IRS rule that was being in place. Okay, he did it. He put all of the money in. Okay, this way he already has his money outside the reach of the IRS. In other words, legitimately or illegitimately, he has his money outside the reach of the IRS. If you look at, and I posted it the other day, I was doing research. Okay, he gives money to Open Society, and then Open Society invests that money in entities in the Cayman Islands. Yeah, right. Exactly. I call it Open Society, closed books.
Wow.
But so it's not so. They're not so transparent on how they run the money. And if they really were transparent, more people would look into it. Maybe not the average Joe on the street, but more people would look into it. They have some sophisticated knowledge of accounting and say, "Hey, this doesn't look kosher to me," But it's deliberately vague. It's deliberately opaque to prevent people from making a critical analysis of what they are doing.
Wow. Hey, man, thank you, bro. Thank you for explaining and breaking that down. And I hope that people are watching tonight and people that will watch it in future really understand how this thing works, man. We have to really, really start looking at it. And you know, and as you said, you know, they're using this money to pick candidates that we vote for.
Right, that we vote for, and people think are not benefiting billionaires. They are benefiting billionaires, but certain billionaires feel a different path to power than other billionaires do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This thing with Mamdani, Working Families Party, and all of that, that's just the tail wagging the dog. Okay. The big dogs are the money interests that are behind them. Now, Cuomo's got billionaires backing him too. Don't get me wrong.
Right. No, absolutely.
But Cuomo at least doesn't pretend that he doesn't have billionaires backing him. I got to give him that, even though I dislike him for a lot of other reasons. Okay.
Right.
You know, people say you say something nice about Cuomo, all of a sudden you agree with everything he's saying. There's a no. It's not the case.
Right.
Sometimes, you know, like a clock can be right twice a day, so can Cuomo be right once in a while too.
Right. Man, Sam, as always, brother, thank you for coming on.
I just hope that when this tape gets replayed back, I didn't make any inadvertent errors when I connected the dots, because it is a complicated subject. So please, people, don't hit me with the gotcha moments, okay?
Yeah, we thank you. I always thank you for coming on, man, because you really give people an insight to how money works. You know, and we don't understand that part of politics, you know, because if we did,
I would like to see you run for public office, because
no.
The Black community.
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good with what I'm doing. I'm good with helping people. The last time I tried to run for office,
but I think because you sound and look like because you sound and look like Samuel Jackson, you will win every race.
Yeah, well, listen, man. Listen, they tried to lock me up last time, bro, and it ain't fun, you know. When you have
people don't understand the processes can be worse than the punishment.
Exactly. When you have the different district attorney trying to build a case, listen, they launched an investigation on me because they tried to say signature fraud, because they didn't believe that a man was named Elmo Wesley. I mean, you could have just went to Facebook, brother, and put in Elmo Wesley, and his profile would have came up.
But this is what goes back to what we were discussing earlier about good prosecutors, bad prosecutors, lady.
Right.
It just boils my blood when I see them making cases on petty bullshit.
Right.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like the New York State sales tax department. They'll go after that poor bodega owner for sales taxes, or the IRS for not showing all of his income.
Right.
Which, by the way, is widespread. No, it's no secret that, you know, they pay people off the books, et cetera. But they don't go after these billion-dollar networks that are very, very complicated. And that's where they should be focusing on, but they don't, because it's too hard for them to do. It doesn't fit with their narratives and ideologies, whichever side you want. And it's unfortunate because we, the people, have to pay for it. That's what's unfortunate.
Right. Sam, man, I thank you, brother. You reach out to me whenever, man.
You call me up anytime you want. You know that.
And you know I'm going to chop it up. I'm going to chop it up and send it to you, so you can have.
Whatever you need to. You have to send it to me. I subscribe to you. Yes, I do subscribe to you on YouTube.
All right, man. Thank you, man. God bless, brother. Thank you again.
Too. God bless your audience.
That's Sam Antar, y'all. And let's give him. We definitely gonna give him a round of applause, man. Where is the applause? Here we go. Yes.
In the background.
Have a blessed one, man. Take care now.
Bye-bye.
All right.
If you found this video informative, don't forget to like and share it with others who need to hear the truth. And for exclusive content and behind-the-scenes access. Join the Black Westchester Magazine YouTube membership club today. Your support helps us keep independent Black media strong. Support independent Black media with style. Rock Black Westchester merch and represent the news with the Black point of view. Every purchase helps us speak truth to power. Thank you to everyone who supported us through Super Chat. Your contributions keep independent media alive and thriving. We couldn't do it without you.
This is the Publisher's Desk with Damon K. Jones, brought to you by Black Westchester Magazine, where life, culture, community, and faith meet truth, power, and purpose.